Welcome into the Thunder basketball universe. I don't know if you can believe it, but we are officially at the midway point of the season. Actually, a little over the midway point in the season. The Thunder has officially played 42 games of this regular season. And so we needed to bring in a special guest here today, our very own TV analyst, Michael Cage, former player, former rebound champion. We needed a little bit of a player perspective on what it's like being at this point in the season, being midway through. But first things first, Mike, how are you doing? How are you feeling? You got your cup of coffee with you today?
Well, I'm glad that you noticed that too, because that's really important on a cold Oklahoma day.
I was just saying, you got 3 pairs of socks on today?
Yeah, 3 pairs of socks and a whole lot of coffee. And
Michael's always warm. This is a little inside baseball. He's always wearing a vest with a little button on it, and it lights up. So a heated vest. We call him Iron Man.
Yeah, I got all technology. I was born in a low-tech area, but I'm very high-tech.
Always ready. Well, so the Thunder is coming off a win against the Brooklyn Nets on Sunday, and that was kind of a very professional performance by the Thunder. And Mike, I want to get your perspective because we heard a lot of different names being called in that game, a lot of different players. What did you think of the Thunder's response in that game against the Brooklyn Nets?
Well, I thought it was really big because you're coming off a tough loss to the Mavericks, and a lot of fireworks in that game last Friday night against the Mavericks, but I thought they answered it really well. You get Shea back. And no J-Dub.
Yeah.
Once again, the team understanding that next man mentality, which is really sounds like a cliche, but it served this team very well. And I thought they jumped out early. They got it done early. And it's hard to keep your foot on that gas for that long, which the Thunder have had some big leads. And for some reason, they've been able to maintain them.
Yeah, it's a 48-minute approach that we've seen from this group. And I know, again, that sounds like a cliche, but it's something that this team really preaches all the time. I remember Cason Wallace last season telling us, we don't play the scoreboard, we play the minutes on the scoreboard.
Yeah.
And until they run out, we're playing the exact same way.
Yeah, and the Thunder came out with that fire, especially against a Nets team that's, in transition right now and a little bit of a rebuild, a lot of new faces on that roster. And OKC, from the outside of that game, it was a wire-to-wire, just foot on the gas the entirety of that game. So very professional and just, solid approach by the Thunder in that game.
I thought so too. And, you got to throw in some of the numbers that really make you go, wow, how are they able to do it each night? They're the youngest team in the association. Understanding how to do that for a full 48 minutes is something that 6, 7, and 8-year veterans still don't master.
Right.
And, when you build up that kind of I always like to call it house money.
Yeah.
You're playing with house money. You can also lose house money because you get all carried away, you get comfortable.
You get confident.
Yeah, I thought they did a good job, once again against a Brooklyn Nets team, not playing their record, but playing what they were capable of. Remember on their this was their second swing out west, but on their first swing out west, they played really well. They had 4 big wins on that trip. They were playing really well. They're coached really well. And so I thought they did a good job of just not playing where they were at that particular moment, just playing Thunder basketball.
One thing that stood out to me, Michael, that I wanted to get your perspective on is just, a guy like Ousmane Dieng steps in and he goes, I think 4 for 4 or 5 for 5 to start that game. Yep. Brandon Carlson, a guy that's on a 10-day contract, has been in the rotation for the last week, basically. And I just wonder, from your experience, your playing career, if you remember times like that where you had guys who are sort of on the fringe of the roster. I know you were never in that position, but if you remember teammates who were able to come in and give your group a jolt, when you're in these situations, dog days of January, and able to come through for the team.
Well, I'll tell you a quick story about my career. Even though I was a lottery pick, I didn't play right away my rookie year because I was playing with a lot of veteran players on the team. And so I didn't start. I wasn't getting a whole lot of minutes, but I understood that opportunity was going to come at some point in time. And the coaching staff kept telling me, be ready. Be ready, Cage. I'm going, okay, I'll keep doing it. I'm going to show up at practice. I'm going to pay attention to the scouting reports. Game days, I'm going to pay attention to the walkthrough. I'm going to learn all the details. I'm going to know all the plays. And when that moment finally came, a guy named Cedric Maxwell was just warming up in Denver one night. And it was just about at the halfway point of the season. And he strained his hamstring. Just warming up, he couldn't go.
Oh, wow.
The coach knew immediately. He says, Cage, you're starting. Because I came back in. He says, Cage, you're starting. I was like, okay. I was like, okay, I've been ready for this moment.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I'm seeing in these guys. Playing the game on ready, being ready for the moment. I think Brandon's Carlson's situation is really, really unique because he was cut by the Toronto Raptors. Right. And for a young guy who's never played in the NBA, played all his time at the University of Utah, you can immediately go, oh man, I haven't even gotten a chance. He didn't hang his head down.
Yep.
Stayed very focused, got a call from the Thunder, and still didn't play right away.
Yeah.
So really, when you look at the character of guys, he fits the character of this team. Ousmane Dieng fits the character of his team.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy, won a G League championship last year, G League MVP in the finals. And, he spent some time up here, time down there with the Blue, but played the game on ready. And I think that's more about the individual accepting their situation and making the most of it.
And just how valuable that Blue program is. I mean, I know that's something that you all didn't have during your playing career either, was just...
it was called the CBA, but it should have been called, we'll see you wherever the team is. Lincoln, Nebraska, Omaha. I mean, the teams were all over the place, and they had no affiliation with any NBA team.
You said Ulysses, Texas the other night.
I was
Googling Ulysses, Texas. I was trying to find that place. It's not even on the map.
Scratching my brain.
That's my point. So, to reference your point, I think you make a great point about how the Blue really serves a purpose, and Ousmane Dieng has really benefited from that.
Yeah. And that depth has been so valuable to this Thunder team throughout the entirety of the season. And Michael, you've been with us every single game this season. It has been a rough go for the Thunder for the start in terms of schedule, back-to-backs. I mean, travel. Yeah. It has been a really, really challenging schedule. And the Thunder has done such a good job, especially on the second night of back-to-backs or just when they're traveling. They don't make excuses. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that they have a lot of guys that they can go to, and they have a lot of fresh legs that they can lean on throughout these sort of challenging moments. And one thing I want to bring up to you, we talked about the Thunder just played game number 42. And, we call you Iron Man because of the vest, but also during your playing career, you didn't miss a lot of games.
No, that was one of my nicknames too.
Exactly. So it kind of works out both ways. What allowed you to make sure that you were ready to go, play the game on ready, like you talk about, in the middle of kind of a tough, the dog days of January? Right. You're halfway through. All-Star weekend is right there on the horizon. You can see it. How do you make sure you're still ready in these moments?
Well, being I remember when I was a young player, I always say, look, do the minimum. What's the minimum? You got to take care of your health. That's not a maximum. Minimum, you got to take care of your health. Minimum, you got to go to practice and be ready. That's not a maximum. Minimum, you got to show up on time. Mm-hmm. Minimum, you got to stay late. Okay, those are the minimums. Okay, the maximums, you got to stay focused. Right. You got to know what's going on the court at all times as a young player. And even as a veteran player, I studied scouting reports. I asked coaches, I'm saying, okay, Coach Gallo, how can I get better?
That sounds nice. I like that.
Nice ring to it.
It was my way of saying, Coach Gallo, how can I get more playing time? You just got to reframe it. That's all.
Mike, I'd let you play all 48 minutes, buddy.
Get those boards, man.
This is my kind of coach. That's right. I'll go through a brick wall for this guy. And that's how I kind of approached it, with just those little things, and then realizing that take care of yourself, being present, those little things where coaches are saying, this is what I need you to do versus what I know you're capable of doing.
Yeah.
All right. I need you, Cage, tonight to be just a rebounder. Cage, I need you tonight to just be a screener. Can you just be a screener for us? Because you got to trust the coaching staff and what they're doing. Those little things all add up to one day the coach is going to say, look, Brandon Carlson, look, Ousmane Dieng, look, AJ Mitchell, I need you to start because I have confidence in you that you can do these things that I need you to do on a night where we have a short roster. Mm-hmm. The Thunder have had a short roster on a number of nights this year.
Really, all season long, they've dealt with injuries in one form or another, whether it's being down Chet Holmgren for a significant amount of time, Isaiah Hartenstein now recently, Alex Caruso recently, and then now AJ Mitchell. So it's kind of just a moving target of, health for OKC. And so to your point, everyone's got to be ready. How does it feel for players at this point in the season? Does it require a little extra, you got to dig in a little bit deeper to stay focused because All-Star's on the horizon? Or is it just, what's the mentality typically for players at this point in the season?
I played with a guy named Norm Nixon. You probably have to Google that name. Played for the Lakers, won 3 titles with them. He told me, don't go on All-Star break before the break. And he says it's usually right around that window where you're 10 games and under.
Yep.
Where you're making your plans. I'm going to be in the Bahamas, I'm going
that
to Hawaii.
Beach is looking real nice right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He says, you can't do that, man. He says, look, I know you're going to do that one day, but he said, stay right here, because he said, these are crucial games.
Yeah.
Because these games can decide playoff positioning back in April or up in coming. And he said, you have to really see it that way.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can, we talk about playing this game like checkers. Sometimes we talk about playing it like chess. This is a chess move.
Yeah.
Finish the All-Star break, go all the way to the break and win as many games as you can, and then come back, refresh, because everybody's carrying injuries right now.
Right.
And Shea, for goodness sake, I thought the world was going to end when he missed his first game the other night. I said, he never misses a game.
Like, wait a minute. That never happens.
It never happens. I said, man, I don't know what to do here. I have no more notes now. So, and then just really staying, like you guys talk about a lot here, and you do a great job with this podcast, just staying ready, staying in the moment.
Yeah. And
understanding that you got to get all the way to the break, and then that's the break. The break is not now. The break is when you get to it.
What's so funny is, Norm Nixon said it without saying it exactly what Mark Daigneault always preaches, which is be where your feet are.
Yep.
And that's where these guys have gotten to. You hear Shea echoing that all the time. Everybody's asking Shea about, what do you think about MVP? What do you think about, all NBA, all these accolades, hitting the 10,000 point mark? And he's like, I'm completely and totally focused on where I'm at today. And that attitude is what's gotten me from being where I was when I was a rookie to where I am now. So I'm not changing that up anytime soon.
And that's throughout the entire organization. I mean, Coach Daigneault, after that Brooklyn win, Coach Daigneault secured coaching for All-Star Weekend. So he will be coaching him and an assistant, which is a wonderful honor, very deserving. But he was asked about it at practice yesterday. And he was asked, have you decided what coach you're going to bring with you? And he said, look, I haven't even thought about the All-Star break. I am still so focused on, basically, we're focused on Utah coming in a couple of days. So I haven't even thought about it. And when we get there, then I will actually put some thought towards it. But I haven't even thought about it. That's just
and that's what I think that's terrific. That's the message too he's sending to the team. Because water leaks from the roof down. When you got Shea talking, the way he talks about, look, man, I'm just taking it game by game. And you got the coach saying the same thing. I mean, the players understand that. And for the Thunder to be, the youngest team in the NBA, that's remarkable to be making those kind of statements of, staying focused. Because, I remember when I was a rookie, my mind was running 1,000 different miles a minute. I was thinking about over here. I was living in Los Angeles. I wish someone had just kept telling me, like Norm and like Marcus Johnson, telling me to, look, stay right here. Yeah. And it's really served the Thunder very well.
It certainly has. And they've put up some pretty big numbers through the first 41 games of the season. So, Michael, we want to get your perspective on the Thunder and their performance so far this season. Starting on the offensive end, I just want to throw out some numbers. Big shout out to our guy, Chris Josephson, who always gives us some fantastic stats. He put together some midseason numbers for the Thunder. Offensively, 23 games with a 20-point lead. That's the most in the NBA. Now 24 games after the Brooklyn Nets win.
Nice.
So that is an incredible, incredible stat for OKC. Also has the best free throw percentage in the NBA as well. So a couple of really big offensive numbers for OKC. And I mean, Michael, you've been on the call for all of these games. Seeing how Oklahoma City is able to build these leads, maintain them, sprint through the finish lines of games has been really impressive.
It has. And what it tells you, Paris and Nick, is that, it's more than just one person making that happen. I know we got our lead dogs pulling the sled out there, and Shea and J-Dub, and iHeart, no doubt about it. And I throw Chet in that conversation if he was healthy. But it takes everybody to put those numbers together, and everybody making those numbers happen. And we're just talking offense. We haven't talked defense. So I'll try to stay focused here because this team has really done some amazing things at a young age that are really important in the NBA. You got to score the basketball. You just have to. And when teams foul you, which Nick and Paris, we don't get to the free throw line very often.
No, not much.
I'm saying
enough.
Maybe in the second half we'll get to the free throw line.
Not as much as we could be.
There
was some officiating adjustments in the second half of last season, so maybe we'll get some this season
might
too.
See a little something, maybe. Yeah.
No one shoots free throws better than us. We're number one. So, and we've done it without the services of going to the free throw line
Exactly.
as frequent as most of the teams in the NBA, which makes those numbers you just put out there more impressive.
And it's just crazy considering how much time the Thunder spends around the rim offensively driving, and that's typically where most fouls happen. So the math isn't mathing on that.
About 60 drives a game, and that would be right around first or second in the NBA. And as you mentioned, that's where most of the fouls happen. They don't turn the ball over on drives. About 4% of drives, they actually turn the ball over, which is one of the fewest rates in the entire league. One thing that I want to latch onto that you said is that they do it together. And that togetherness can really be borne out in this stat. 40 out of the 42 games, they've had at least 20 assists in the game. And that's kind of, it feels like to me, kind of like you got a running game in football. If that ball is moving, if that ball is zipping, if guys are getting advantages because of the pass, you're going to generate enough good looks to be able to put points on the board.
And, that's an art. That doesn't happen overnight. That's a culture. That's an understanding. That's a philosophy that's created, because a lot of teams in today's NBA, they load up their offense on 2 or 3 guys. That's just how it is. They got these 2 or 3 guys who score most of the points. But if you're a Thunder player, you got to be really happy. No matter if you're from 1 to 12, you're going to get the basketball if you're open.
Yeah.
And if you move and get to the right spots, you're going to get the ball. I mean, how many times you've seen Shea drive? When I go, he could easily have hit that little mid-range, or midi or whatever. He kicks it all the way across court for a 3-pointer to Kenrich, a 3-pointer to Ijo, a 3-pointer to Cason Wallace. He does that all the time, and it's really underrated. And everyone else does the same. I've seen him sometimes. I go overpass, but a great pass to a guy who makes a great play. And we've seen Wiggins benefit from that at times, where because he moves without the ball very well. And I think that really helps the Thunder and makes them really difficult to guard. I know they're loading up on Shea and J-Dub, but you can't just pinpoint those guys.
Yeah.
Because anybody else can have a 20-plus point night like we've seen happen in the last couple of weeks.
It's really fascinating to hear Michael explain that as an observation, because Mark Daigneault just yesterday at practice was saying that Shea, when he first got here, was passing kind of out of reaction. His first mode was attack downhill, try to score, and if he got stopped, then he would look to pass. And now Shea much more is, as the sequence is unfolding, even before he gets to that next defender, he's already kind of processing what's going to be open, and he's making the pass before he's gotten stopped. He's anticipating where that next play should be. I thought that was really, really fascinating.
Let me put you guys on the hot seat.
Okay.
Since you have me here as a guest. Really nice being
That's
here.
allowed here.
Very often.
We'll allow it. Yeah.
Is that a trust thing with teammates?
Absolutely. That was going to be my follow-up point.
Okay.
And Shea doing that exemplifies his trust in his teammates and his ability to invest in his teammates. If Shea were to continue doing what he did as a rookie, get downhill, wait to get stopped, and then try to find an outlet, then try to find somebody open, it's too late. Because especially at this point now, the book's out on Shea. Like everyone knows Shea is the head of the snake. Shea is the one that's going to get 30 points each night. You got to slow down Shea. Everyone's trying to stop Shea. And he recognizes that you cannot be successful as a team unless everyone else feels in rhythm and comfortable, and also feels like a threat out there on the floor. And so for Shea to be able to get Isaiah Joe involved super early, and then next thing you know, Isaiah Joe has caught fire. He's got 8 threes in a game, and that frees Shea up. Because now they have to get out there and close out to Isaiah Joe, and now suddenly there's one less body in the paint trying to shut Shea down and cut him off from the rim. And so all of that is very cohesive. And I think a really good example of this is him kicking the ball out to Isaiah Joe. But like last night in Brooklyn, you say water leaks from the roof down. If you see your best player, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, out there investing in his teammates, a guy like Aaron Wiggins, he's going to drive into the middle of the paint. He gets cut off. He throws a no-look behind-the-back pass to Brandon Carlson at the top of the three-point line.
What I'm going to say. That was nasty.
That was beautiful. That was so beautiful. But
That's
it's also Brandon Carlson hasn't played a ton of minutes with the Thunder so far this season, but that goes to show the trust that's built in that locker room from what we see with Shea. And then, a guy like Brandon Carlson can just fit in, and his teammates automatically trust him and look for him.
And I love the word that you use there, which is built, because that trust is built. It's not necessarily like earned because somebody did something good, and so therefore they've earned that trust. It's more like the power of the cohesion of the team, the power of the continuity of the team, that this is now years of time that Shea has had and J-Dub have had with Aaron Wiggins and Isaiah Joe and some of these players who are helping fill in the gaps of what the team needs night in and night out. And so there's a trust that's been built, not that necessarily they'll knock down the shot when the ball is passed to them, but even that they'll be in the right spot and that they will take the shot. And that's the type of shot that they are capable of hitting.
And that's why they had 37 assists last night against the Brooklyn Nets. And
was it that many?
37. That's a season high.
Wow.
And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had 10 of them. So it's just a very cohesive group out there. Very difficult to guard offensively. Let's go to the defensive end of the floor, Michael, because I know you're really excited to talk about that.
I don't know a lot about it, but go ahead.
No, we saw those 77 steals you had with the Sonics, that 93-94 season.
Please, I think I can answer this question.
I think you have a little
now
intel
that I'm qualified.
So is that the team that had the most steals in a season ever?
Wow. Yeah,
okay.
He was part of that team. And I think, so Steve Melton, our producer, told us you had 77 steals in that season, but you were like the person with the fifth most steals. So there were 4 more players ahead of you that had more steals.
On the team with 77 steals. Yeah.
Incredible. Wow. Which goes to show, that explains why they had the most steals that season.
When you think back to that season, does it remind you of what's going on with the Thunder this year, just in terms of hands in the passing lanes and deflections and all that?
The only difference is we were older.
Yeah.
That was it. That's the only difference.
Interesting.
The way they all lock arms and play defense on a string, the way they can all cover for each other, buy time, stunt. You know, a lot of times when you fake like you're going to go at a guy, buying that other guy time to get over there.
Yeah.
Little things that don't show up on the stat sheets. They're doing the same thing we did, back in the 90s.
Yeah.
Wow. And they're doing it and they're 10 years younger.
Yeah.
Which is really amazing.
Yeah. I mean, who would like Gary Payton?
Yeah. Kendall Gill.
Oh, Sean Kemp. Yeah.
A lot of those guys. Nate McMillan, who was second on the team in steals. Nate actually was first with 3.1 average.
Wow.
Oh, my goodness.
Averaging 3 steals a game is crazy.
It's remarkable. Yeah. Well, what would you equate that to scoring in the NBA? If you average 3 steals,
like 35
points.
Yeah.
That's a big time number.
That's huge. And to sustain that for a full season,
right?
I mean, goodness
a lot of fans don't understand that. Oh, it's only 3. No.
That's 3.
You basically can't have a game that you have 0.
That's right.
In order to average 3 steals a game.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And you got to have
one game where you have 80.
Yeah, that's right. I was going to say you got to have some 6s and 7s in there too. Games to make up for the 2s or 1s.
Right. Well, the Thunder's putting up some gaudy numbers just like that this season. 463 steals this season total. That was before the Brooklyn game. And let me just check to see how many the Thunder had against Brooklyn. They had 8 steals against the Nets. So
that's kind of a low number actually for the Thunder this season, which is crazy.
It's a little below average for OKC. But here's the craziest part about this, obviously, and the Thunder has the best defensive rating in the NBA. We all know that. It is 9.4 points above average of the average NBA defensive rating. Insane numbers. But going back to the steals, the Thunder has 3 players in the top 6 in the NBA in steals per game. So of the top 6, the Thunder owns 50% of the share.
I mean, honestly, that's almost like you would say that's an anomaly, but it's not because they're doing it. And, for me, being a former ball player in this league, I look at it and I go, I'm scratching my head because I didn't think that was possible.
Right.
That 3 guys on the same team can average that many steals collectively. And it lets you know how disruptive they can be. You can pull one guy out. You may be without Case and Wallace tonight, or you may be without, Lou Dort, or whatever. But other guys fall into place because they're also defensive minded,
right?
And they understand how to steal the basketball without getting into foul trouble.
Yeah.
The blocks are different. You go up against a big time shot blocker and teams will try to scheme to get that guy out of the paint, or you move him around, or as you always say, you go right into the chest of that shot blocker, right? When you got 6 guys that are wielding knives out there with their hands on the perimeter, what do you, there's no way around it really.
I was thinking about if I'm a team that's playing the Thunder, I'm saying to myself, and if I'm a player or a coach, I'll give you the coach's point of view. Don't pass the ball because they're going to steal everything. And if you threw a pass more than 10 feet, it's going to get stolen because they're quick and they can anticipate. A big part of stealing is just anticipation. You know that, Paris, being a former ball player in college level. you got to basically do like a DB or a defensive back in football, anticipate that the quarterback is going to throw here. You got to get your body over in that area. Because if you're not in the area, you can't get to the steal. The anticipation throughout the roster is very impressive.
The other element to this, too, is the length that the Thunder has on the perimeter. Now, a lot is made of the Thunder's size. They play small.
Sure.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is 6'6", people.
He's not small.
Okay.
He's just fine. Yeah,
Jalen Williams has a 7'2" wingspan.
That's crazy.
Alex Caruso has great size out and massive
hands. If you've ever seen his hands, they're unbelievably huge.
He's got really big hands out there. And so try to pass the ball through a passing lane when everyone has their arms up. And we didn't even talk about Cason Wallace. We didn't even talk about the fact that Lou Dort, technically the shortest guy in the starting lineup, but oh my goodness, try to go through him. Yeah. Please. Right. Anyone.
Right. He kind of reminds you of like, Velcro.
Exactly.
He gets on you, man, and he just doesn't let go.
Stuck.
And he follows you everywhere.
I would call him like a shadow. He's just a shadow that you can't shake.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And when you look at how they do it, you want to say, well, it is Lou Dort's. I think he's the lead dog out there.
Definitely.
He sets the tone, don't you think?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And everybody else but they all play defense their own way. Lou Dort is very physical.
Yep.
He's a physical defender,
but
won't back down.
Feet.
Yes.
Very quick feet.
Quick feet. Well, every now and then he'll run through a screen.
Yep.
Just to let you know, say, look, man, I'm going to actually be. Is that my phone?
I think that is your phone.
That's not my phone. That's not my ring. I don't know what ring that is. That might be my phone ring. I'm sorry. But one of those biggest things you got to look at too is when Lou Dort gets on a guy, he's with him and he's also like tugging his jersey.
Yeah.
You got to watch that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Tugging the jersey, stuff that the officials say, I'm not going to call a foul, but you're bugging that guy.
Yeah.
And the game is up here a lot of times.
All mental.
So he's done a great job of establishing himself defensively, and we got to have at least two guys on the all defensive team.
I'm telling you.
I don't know who.
I'm telling you.
I'm not going to settle for one, and I'm definitely not going to settle for zero over the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah,
the Thunder finish with the defensive rating that they finish with right now, and there's not at least 2 players on the all defensive team. We've got some question marks.
Yeah, that's the can't. We just got to stop that because you can't be a really good defensive team, top 5 defensive rating year in year out, and not have a single player in those 15 spots of all defensive team.
And to kind of finish and round out the point you were making earlier about where the defensive rating is in comparison to the rest of the league, 9 points better than the average in the rest of the league.
Yep.
If that is maintained, and we know eras change, and so that average over the course of seasons is going to be different, but if the Thunder maintains that advantage of 9.5 points better, that would be the best of all time. Yeah.
That's
rested.
Yeah.
I think what you're seeing is something very unique.
Yeah.
Something that's very hard to duplicate. Because in the modern day NBA, we haven't seen a team have these kind of numbers.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to take you back to what we were talking about earlier in our podcast here. It takes everybody to make these kind of numbers work. You got to have everybody buying into it. And the Thunder are a very good team scoring the basketball. You've already pointed that out as well, too. They can score the basketball, but they can also stop the basketball.
Yep.
Which I think creates a nice little balance to them and probably has a lot to do with, at this point in the season, why, they have 35 wins versus 7 losses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not all offense. It's a combination of both offense and defense.
Defense is sustainable regardless of what circumstance you're in. And you can always bring defensive energy even if the ball isn't falling through the hoop. And we've seen the Thunder really grit out some games on the defensive end when their shot wasn't falling and they walk away with a win because of that defense. Michael, I'm going to take a page out of your book and I'm going to put my mind into the brain of me as a point guard. And I see Lou Dort squaring up across from me, trying to take the ball away from me. And I've got you as a wonderful screener setting a ball screen for me. I go around your ball screen and there's Cason Wallace on the other side of that ball screen. Yeah. And as a point guard, I am exhausted. I might have a good shooting night. I might, put up 20. Who knows? I wasn't doing that. But if I was shooting the ball well,
yes, you was.
Who knows? Yeah. Who knows? But the cumulative effect of every single play, squaring up, having to earn every single shot against Lou Dort or Cason Wallace, or let's say I'm crafty. Let's say I make it work and I'm just like a water bug guard and I get downhill. Now I've got Jay Will in front of the rim ready to take a charge and take away any option. They truly are. The defense is smothering and exhausting, and it just takes away. Relentless, yes.
I think just explaining all that was exhausting.
Right. I'm out of breath.
And it's really, it's really well taken. What I like most of all is that you can gamble. Playing defense in the NBA is all about gambling.
Mm-hmm.
If I know I'm Lou Dort, I know I'm bodying up, Doncic, I'm bodying up Damian Lillard, I'm bodying up all these big time scores, and some big guy picks me off, and I got Case and Wallace waiting for me. I'm like, oh man. It's like, if you're running through a neighborhood and you're trying to get home, and you got to go through a couple of blocks before there's a pit bull on this block. Yeah. You got to outrun him. Ooh, I got by the pit bull. I'm home free. And you look over there's a bulldog. Yeah. He's waiting for you right there. He said, I got to get through that street too. And it just keeps going on and on. And don't forget about Shea.
Yeah.
Shea's always poking balls away.
What
he
did
does a great job of doing
What did Shea call these guys? Hyenas?
Hyenas.
I think he called them hyenas.
Yeah,
and that's
hyenas and cockroaches.
That is great.
You definitely don't want to get
they
caught out
there
in the open savannah.
Yeah.
Right.
They hunt in packs, and they do a good job of reading each other, when to come, when to stay. And if you notice, we don't get a lot of lobs at the rim.
Nope.
No.
Because we stop the ball at the point of attack or shortly after the point of attack.
Yes.
And a lot of times teams can't even get it below the free throw line.
Right.
So
And Michael, you'll notice if the ball goes into the paint or if the ball goes into the block and that big man brings that ball down below his shoulders, it's Thunder basketball.
It is.
Essentially.
Yeah. And I think coaches are telling their players, you've got to get rid of that ball quickly. And he's going, well, coach, who do I get rid of it to? There's a guy playing midfield named Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
And he's reading my eyes.
He's looking at me, and I got a guy over here named Case and Wallace who literally just sitting there
lying in wait.
Just waiting, just like, some like a predator. He's just waiting. Yep. Okay, I'm going to wait for you to get into my area. Boom, I'm going to get it.
Yep.
And go the other way. He had a couple of those against Brooklyn the other night. And it's really hard to understand because defenses can be very complicated in the NBA, and they happen so fast that I think it's great that you guys are explaining this right now to our fan base.
Yeah.
That it's not just an average steal that they make. There's a whole coalition of players behind that forced that guy to say, I had nowhere because I know Shea gonna steal it because he can get to it. You got Case and Wallace, just lying in like a chameleon. You can see him, but I don't know where he's at.
Yeah.
He's kind of behind the bodies. I can't go this way because, you got Lou Dort, all up on me. And so when our fans see the game, they go, oh, another steal by the Thunder. There's a really wonderful process that coughs up a steal from a team on a night-to-night basis where everybody's involved. Or if not, they would just throw a lob. Or if not, they just throw the ball over to the corner, over the defense's head and get an open three. Can't get to that now.
That process of making the offense think a little bit more, question everything, that's the mind game. That's that sixth defender out there just keeping them in check throughout the entire night. And the Thunder's got people out here seeing ghosts on the defensive end, truly.
And you can see it wear teams down over the course of the 48 minutes. I mean, how many times have we seen over the last month or so where high-level teams have played against the Thunder, and by the time it's the third or the fourth quarter, their offense has completely dried up. They are totally gassed and wiped out. It was the Knicks. It was the Celtics. Those fourth quarters, the Thunder had completely worn them down to a nub because of just the continual onslaughts of defensive pressure and activity.
That's a culture. That's what these guys, being as young as they are, I struggled with the weak side help. I used to always get called for illegal defense or defensive 3 seconds because I could not figure out everybody's moving.
Everybody's moving.
How often do we get caught on
Almost
a defensive
never.
3 seconds?
Yeah.
Not often at all.
I can maybe count it on one hand.
I can remember a couple of times.
And that's, to me, that's the art on the back line of the defense.
Great point.
That guy, even away from the ball, away from the ball, is doing his job. Because that's usually the guy that gets caught.
Yep.
And these guys have an average age of 24 and change, 24 years old.
Right.
And they have that level of court awareness.
That's the best part of all of this, is that all of these guys still have such a long runway ahead of them. And this team has such a long runway ahead of them. And they are putting together some really impressive performances so far this season. Best record in the West.
Yeah, and they've hung on to it, and it lets you know, too, with the numbers you've kicked out here, Paris, offensively, defensively, and the explanations behind it, Nick, that you've given, this has been something that's very sustainable. I don't think they look at it as the best record. They look at it as this is what we do.
We're stacking days.
We're stacking days.
Yes, right. And playing Thunder basketball, playing to our identity. And the Thunder has established a very strong identity so far this season. 42 games in. I can't even believe it. I feel like I blinked and we're halfway through the season. It's kind of crazy to think about. But Michael, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it as always. And the Thunder, just a look ahead really quick on the rest of this week here. The Thunder's got a back-to-back here at home. They welcome in the Utah Jazz on Wednesday and then turn around in a rematch against the Dallas Mavericks on what's that, Wednesday? Thursday. Thank you. Sorry, days are running together. A Wednesday, Thursday, back-to-back. So make your way down to Paycom Center. Come watch this team in action inside of this building. Michael Cage, thank you so much, as always.
Thanks.
It's always great having you on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I feel like I've been sitting in a coach's meeting.
There you go.
Got all the intel. All the
He thought he was done with that for his career, but nope, we're pulling you back in, Michael.
We got to keep you around, Michael. All right. Well, thank you so much for watching and listening. Be sure to like, rate, and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Thank you so much to our producer, Matt Bishop. And until next time, Thunder up and catch you later.